biggest obstacles to Nigeria's rebirth. And it appears to have a working system that allows it to thrive no matter what. As believers in leadership, whether in business, politics, or ministry, how do we uphold biblical values of integrity and excellence in a system that seems to often reward compromise?
Well, I don't know whether this is one of those situations, Pastor Poju, that one will say to a carpenter, everything is a hammer and a nail.
Yeah.
But I would use a practical example to demonstrate what it is that I'm going to share with you, because I do have a story to tell. It's a short one because I have 2 minutes. My ending of the story is that your values are the things that you place importance on, that are important enough to you. And that whatever it is that is most important to you, anything less than that, you will never accept. So a few years ago, I will not say how long, but it's not this administration, it's not last administration, it's a while ago. Let me just leave it at that. Pastor Pojo likes to tell stories, so I'm telling story today. I was approached by, I got a phone call, and it happened to be a man of God in Abuja who called me to say, Fela, there is an opportunity that I want you to explore. In fact, let me be clear with you, you have already gotten it. So I said, okay, what is it about? He said, we want to run a program called on ethical leadership. And when we did some kind of vetting, we said we were looking for 3 things. Number one, we're looking for somebody who has experience and expertise on ethical leadership. Number 2, we were looking for somebody who had the reputation of experience and expertise on ethical leadership. And the third one was that we were looking for somebody who had the capacity, are you ready for this? To run an ethical leadership training across 774 local governments in 8 weeks. So the person must have an army of people, trainers, that can train in 50 local governments at the same time on Monday and Tuesday, and then 50, those people will now move to another local government and train 50. So therefore, in 1 week, they would have trained 700 local governments. He said, we know what you've been doing with raising speakers, and you have Speakers Corner, you have Speakers Connect. We know all of these things. You know what you've been doing in the banking sector. We believe you are the only one that has all 3. So we want you to please give us your invoice. So we went, and I called my team together. I said, please make sure that when you do, everything is at cost. Everything. The pencil must be at cost. The bag, the paper, everything. And then they said, okay, so what do we do as management fee? I said, no, this is for Nigeria. Leave that out. I am not charging a management fee on it. So it's only the cost. So we put in a bid for 1.3 billion at that time. Exact cost. 3 days later, I get a call. Congratulations, fella. You know, you have been given the task. But we looked at the costing and we said, it's not possible that this costing could have been, it's most likely that you did not put anything for yourself. I said, no, I didn't put anything for myself. I said, I told them in that meeting, fella won't put anything for himself. He said, so we decided to put something for you. So we want to put 700 million on top of this thing, so you will get 2 billion, but send us an invoice for 5 billion. And we need that invoice in the next 3 days before they close the account of the for the year. I said, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. He said, what is it that you don't understand, fella? We said, send it in so that we can quickly process it for you. It's already allocated to you, don't worry. I said, but sir, I thought you said this thing is ethical leadership. He said, yes. I said, but if already we are doing ethical leadership and we are already inflating price, then what are we teaching? He said, fella, please. You know that if you don't do this thing, you know these people, they will just give it to one of their people who will not even do any job, and they will still deliver that thing. It's better for you to be the one that got it. I said, no, sir. The gifts and the callings of God are without repentance, but the blessing of the Lord maketh rich and addeth no sorrow. He said, there's no sorrow to this. You have been doing well for Nigeria. It is time for Nigeria to do well for you. I said, no, sir. I'm sorry. Long story cut short, I had to turn off my phone for 3 days at one point. He was calling me every 30 minutes. At one time, I turned off my phone. Pastor Kojo, what I didn't realize was that 3 months later into the new year, I saw on page 4 of a newspaper, 4 people in the presidency arrested by EFCC for stealing 425 million naira for ethical leadership program. Jesus Christ. Now, please listen to this. Listen to this. None of you remembers the name of those people, even though I'm sure all of you saw that paper. You know what they would have written? Anybody knows? Durotoye and 4 others is what they would have written. And if they had written that, I promise you that I will not be sitting in this chair several years later. What is the point that I'm making? You have to come to the point where you value your values to the point where nobody can offer you anything. Only your values can help you turn down what looks like an opportunity to be corrupt. I served for 6 months in the government of this current administration as senior special assistant to the president of Nigeria on national values and social justice. We developed a national plan. I did not charge 1 kobo. I did not accept 1 naira as payment. I did not accept official house. I did not accept official car. And when I got that, when they called me for that opportunity, the gentleman said to me, it's been very difficult to get your letter out. I said, why? He said, because there is no way they can hold you. You don't have, you are not collecting a salary. You are not collecting an official car. You are not collecting official house. So there's nothing to threaten you with. So I want you to know, sir, in those 6 months, I met many people like me. I'm not special. I'm not holier than thou. There are many people that are making this country work. They are called heroes. And they are people who have values, who have left their nation, left their family to serve Nigeria. But it is their values that are at work. Sir, when we have the right values, there won't be corruption in this land.
Powerful. All right, Prof. This is a sensitive question, so I'll throw it to you. Nigeria is deeply divided along ethnic and religious lines, often fueling distrust, conflict, and political instability. How can the church take the lead in fostering true unity, healing historical wounds, and building a national identity that transcends tribalism?
I think the first thing is that the church is not a tribe. And therefore, the church doesn't have an identity that makes it, different from other tribes. The tribe of the church is just the church in name and itself. The church is what it is the body of Christ. There are no divisions in the church, and therefore the church abhors division. That's the first thing. It's a united church. Now, even within that church, let's get a little secular. And for all of us here, I know my father and my mother. I probably also know my grandparents, but I don't know my great-grandparents. I only got to read about them and to hear about them. But I can tell you that even though I get defined by the names that I bear, I am not fooled at all, because I'm sure that 5 generations ago, I was not where I am today. My grandparents were not where we are today. Every one of us is a migrant. We have come from different parts to be where we are today. The second thing is think of your own origins. There are very few Nigerians that are pure stock. Your father is Yoruba. Your mother is not Yoruba. Your father is Igbo. Your mother is not Igbo. Think of it. So really, when we say we are so very divided, we have something wrong with us. And let me tell you what my research has shown me. The better leaders we have had in Nigeria are people who were born elsewhere from where they claim as their indigenous homes. All across history. Think of them. Nnamdi Azikiwe was born in Zungeru, which is in present Niger State. Bola Ige was a Kaduna boy. Adekunle, Benjamin Adekunle, was an Adamawa boy. He was Bachama by his mom. And many of the guys that governed us, it's when we started to become provincial and local that something snapped in our national cohesion. Many of us today are so particularistic that we are only local people whose essence is defined by that locality. And yet, we are products of great diversity. So I see that the church is a holding place, is a place that brings and binds people together, recognizing that there's strength in diversity, and that's the message that the church has. So it doesn't matter, where you come from in church. We are one people, one body. So I think, that is what this church also has to teach the country. But the country is ready for it because, as I say, if we all dig deep into our origins, we would find, somebody reminded me today that when I appeared on platform, I said we are, many of us, butterflies thinking we are birds. And some of those greatest spokespersons of these ethnic divisions, are people who don't even really belong to those places they claim they come from. You think of it. So I think that the church has a role to play here. The greatest strength of the church is its unity in diversity, and that is what the country has to learn.
All right. I'm going to close by asking the three of you the same question. And I will start from Mr. Fela, and then we'll come down. In closing, I want each panelist to imagine Nigeria in the next 10 years. 10 years, by the year 2035. If we apply the principles we have discussed today, what should our nation look like in 10 years? And what must be done now to ensure we get there?
All right. The vision I see for Nigeria is an excellent nation in 10 years. A nation that is, in a sense, one of the most desirable nations to live in, to work in, to do business, and to raise the next generation. What must we do to be able to make that happen? Well, we need to build the best people to live with, to be able to have the best nation to live in. We need to build the best people to work with, to be able to have the best nation to work in. But then we also need to build the best people to do business with and to raise the next generation for us to have that excellent nation. So we need excellent people to build an excellent nation. So how are we going to get excellent people? Well, the Bible is very clear as to how we do it. It says, as a man thinketh in his heart. The values is what is the thinking of the heart. It's what guides the behavior of people. And as we begin to put values in place, systems will begin to reflect our values to protect. Because if you have people who, it's hard for us to have institutions that will check corruption when those institutions are manned by corrupt people. There's nobody that will do something against their own self-interest. So we need to have something parallel to the systems and institutions that we know, and that is what I've been describing as this people sector. Very quickly, sir. If we can begin to drive values into our schools, and drive values into our homes, and have values taught on television, have billboards that share our values. And on 1 week, we have one value that is all across. The next week, we can take whatever the values are. Once we begin to do it on the public messaging, we begin to do it through programming, even in the church, having a common curriculum that every church, let's start with PFN, is running over a period of time that has been developed by PFN. Once we begin to do that, then all of a sudden you will realize that to be a Nigerian becomes something that everybody knows what it means. That if you behave in a particular way, they will say to you, that's not Nigerian behavior. When you drop something, some people will say to you, come and pick it. Because you don't have a culture until people who you don't report to can guide you. You don't have a culture in your home until your children are guiding each other. So it's important that we are not only waiting for the law to be fixed or for the institutions. We have to self-regulate. And I believe that as we start self-regulating, we'll have happy homes, we'll have the best people, employees, we'll have the best students, and before you know it, the world is coming to Nigeria because we also have the best market.
Very quickly, I think I see Nigeria by 2035 as having the potential to become a top 10 economy in the world. It's pretty simple.